Alright, sup Star Citizen, welcome back to the Path of Rage. I am Rage at Games, and this is going to be a rather quick summary of the news for Star Citizen this past week, as we have currently entered our content drought as CIG gets ready for CitizenCon at the end of the month. So, while there isn't a lot to go over, most of it is going to be involving the current patch builds, so let's get right into it. Now, like I was saying, CitizenCon is coming up on the 19th and the 20th of October, so, 18 days away from the time of the recording this, and we're going to be showing a lot of new stuff and whatnot. CitizenCon is what it is. However, it does lead to, like I said, a content drought, while they pretty much stop working on Inside Star Citizen and Star Citizen Live and, the community information efforts, and start working towards CitizenCon and gearing up for that and making sure they have the footage they need. So there was no Inside Star Citizen or Star Citizen Live this week. However, we did have some new developments involving server meshing and the current 3.24.2 build that is on the Evocati servers for just the Evocati at the moment. And it has the new MFDs, so we're going to discuss both of those. First off, with the server meshing update, we had a couple of tests last week that went well enough. The first one was actually horrible. It was unplayable. The trams and the elevators were death machines or just didn't work at all. It was a disaster. Evocati chat was just awash with the bugs that were going down. However, the next one that came along showed a bit of improvement. Now, to get into that a little bit, Bosejo, the Chief Technology Officer now and head of Turbulent, but also one of the big bosses at CIG itself, wrote up a test meshing update on the Spectrum forums. Now, for anyone who follows my channel on a regular basis, you will know that we talked about him coming on with Jared to discuss this very topic. So some of this post is pretty much what you know already. It's if you did watch the Star Citizen Live, because it was informative but like entertaining to watch, and just kind of hear a recap and get your mind fully wrapped around the idea that you know what they're kind of going for. They had certain tests that they wanted to do, and what they were trying to run, and server sizes and whatnot. Now, what I find interesting about his update here is these parts here, the meshing test B post-action report and the meshing test C post-action report. Now, the first one, like I said, was an absolute disaster, and as you can see here, right off the bat, they say, quote, "The results were disappointing and unexpected," unquote. Now, that's putting it mildly. Now, the good thing is they identified a bottleneck that was fixed, and it allowed the players testing at a 4 server by 350 player setup. This problem remained, and the next performance bottleneck needed to be solved and was identified. Now, these were the zoning in and out times, latency and interaction delays. Interaction delays were not that bad for me compared to latency. I don't know how to describe it. Interaction delays were really bad. Some of them were up into the minutes, but the latency was even worse. It just things teleporting around and what. Like I said, it was a absolute disaster. But as they say here, there is a silver lining. Even though they shut down the test early, the original problem was confirmed fixed through metrics and captures. Now, the next test that they ran on September 19th went far, far better, and I'll get into my personal experience with that in just a second. But one of the biggest changes between these two patches was the removal of the legacy NMQ system, the Network Management Queue, I believe it was called, and this was replaced with the new Replication Management queue, which is all based on the server meshing. So there was none of the old legacy code left, and they ran this test, and it worked much better. As a big step forward. Like they say, they were able to successfully identify additional issues, but walked away from this playtest feeling optimistic. Now, like they list off here with the observations, zoning in and out times got worse and worse progressively the more people were on the server, to be expected. There were not enough extra large hangar gateways for people spawning in the same spot and trying to leave in too close a time frame, so the queues were too high. Bathrooms in Babbage were clogged, causing conga lines. That's not true. That was, I believe, another content creator, Morphologist, on one of the shards I was not on, managed to get everybody on the server to go to the bar at New Babbage and line up like they were in a queue, and there's like just 100 of them or more. But again, that's an awesome test of the system. So the player max count looked capped at 100, even though the system was not limited. This will work in the 4.0 stream, so hopefully larger changes will be able to come along. Latency and interaction delays went up in the 1,000 player test. Again, I'll get to my experience in a minute. There were optimization hotspots that they had to find. Now, what I found while testing that on the shard that I was on, each time, I wasn't able to be there at the end for the 1,000 player test. I think it was 550, maybe 600. I can't remember the exact number. It wasn't at the 1,000 point. But what I found in my personal experience was that everything worked fine, with the exception of other players. So if I walked up to the door and hit the F interaction key to open the door, whereas normally it would open up instantaneously, usually if your server's chugging along normally, the door would open up instantaneously. Whereas for me with this test, it would take maybe a second and a half, 2 at most, and the interaction would work. This applied to doors, elevators, the hangars, the freight elevators, the doors on the ships, booting up the ship like to go flight ready on. Everything worked with a slight delay for me. However, players were nowhere to be seen in motion. I would see a player here beside a kiosk, and 2 seconds later he would be completely across the screen in a running position, stone cold still, and then he'd be gone a few seconds later. That was the best I saw. So for me, to that perspective, it looked like while the interaction was slowed down on the shard I was on, the desync was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. However, there were a lot of us in the server. We were able to talk in the chat well enough. Like, there weren't huge delays using the chat, stuff like that. And overall, I agree with the part here where they said they walked away from this playtest feeling optimistic. So did I. I think it went as well as could be expected, and each one of these has been, at the very least, incrementally better than the one before. But this time, this week, I mean 7 days or 5 days later, whatever it was, the 12th to the 19th, 7 days later, and this patch was phenomenally better than the prior experience. So I think they're getting the work done, and it's coming along. Again, we got a long ways to go. I just hope they can get it done in time for 4.0. I'd really like them to not postpone that and Pyro yet again, but only time will tell. Now, moving on to the current, as of filming, 3.24.4 Evocati only patch. I cannot show you any footage from it. It's under NDA, but I can show you the patch notes and discuss them. So, as you can see here, the feedback and the focus was obviously stability and bugs, but they put in the new vehicle HUDs and MFDs, the new character creator stuff, the new rock caves, and some more fine-tuning and archetype balance for flight. I didn't get into that too much because I was too busy in the hangar itself, like calling up new ships and checking out the new MFDs. Some of the ships even got updated cockpits, like the Cutlass Black, which I very much like. Although I can see it being a source of division, because one of your screens, when you're not in interaction mode, one of your MFDs is completely off screen. You can't see it unless you look down. Now, if you've got Tobii Eye Tracker or something that allows you to do that, this is not a problem. I don't have that, maybe one day. But in order for me on the Cutlass to look down beyond the two main screens and the radar, like in the main stuff in the middle of the cockpit that you absolutely need, it's very difficult to look down and especially to manipulate that particular MFD. Now, I don't know too much in depth about the changes to other ships, but we'll have to see about that. Other people will let us know. Now, with the character creator, they added new beard styles and new hairstyles, including long afro, twin braids, and both groom and long style African beards, 21 more DNA heads to mix and match with so you can have better skin tones and facial features. Those of you who've been watching my videos, you know that I'm happy that this is in for people who dig this. It doesn't enthuse me that much. The new caves that have been added in, I have not gotten a chance to check out. I will as this patch cycle comes along. But one is an acidic cave and one is a rock cave. You know, they have various different looks. They'll be in the Pyro system and Stanton, and they'll have different layouts for FPS missions, missing person. They kind of have that now. So these are just, I think, more updated versions of some of the caves we have, and the new one, like a new archetype as well, so they can add further. Now, a big one here is all hauling missions to have a 0 reputation change on abandon. Now, I doubt highly that this will stay for release, but for right now, while testing out hauling, yeah, this is a godsend because of how often these missions still break, and just you get all the way to the end and that one box won't work. And you're done. Well, if you abandon, you lose your reputation. It puts you further behind. This, I think, is a great change for the patch cycle. I honestly don't understand reputation being enabled for the most part in the PTU until more systems are fully in place and integrated, and then we can start playing with it. That's just me. They also added in, like I said, the new vehicle HUDs and MFDs, and I like these. The ones that I can see so far, I like these. Drake has a new one. Aegis has a new one. Argo, Anvil, and a fifth one that just replaces all the other MFDs and other makers for now. Now, I tested each one of these out just in my hangar and a little bit of flight above the area above ArcCorp. Currently, most, other than the landing, Area 18, pardon me, all the other landing zones and whatnot were not turned on. I don't even think the missions were working. This was all to mainly take a look at the MFDs and the new caves. I don't think we were worried about missions too much, but these MFD changes I like. They are far more usable. They are far more readable. Individual tastes will differ, of course. Some people may look at the new Drake MFD, for example, and just not be thrilled with it, while I myself think it looks great and perfectly suited towards Drake. But overall, at the very bottom line, this new version of the MFDs is far better. The HUD is also a little bit more dynamic, and you can have your MFDs in your HUD like cast together. And one of the things you can do on the MFD is change what is cast to your visor. So some things will always be in your view, even if you got Tobii Eye Tracker, and you're looking around, or a head tracker of some kind, and you're looking around. Those things will always be in the middle of your screen, and you can turn them on and off. Again, I think this is a drastic improvement to the HUDs that we've had for so long. Overall, I can't say anything really bad about this. Some things are not perfect, some things are fantastic, and I hope they just continue to dial it in. They also did some balancing updates, which are still in progress. Max boost speeds are lower. All attributes for ship components, excluding weapons, have been updated. Now, this was setting off chat in a big way. People were losing their shit about the components and the differences and all that, really getting into theory crafting and whatnot. So for those of you who have been interested in this game and have been paying attention, or hoping at least to components becoming more useful and differentiated. This is the beginning of it. I think you'll like what we have to see here. I would like to have charged or checked out the recharge rate for the weapons, but even though I read the patch notes, I didn't even think to do it because I was more, again, focused on the MFDs and the limited time that I had to play this build for the time being. And as you can see here, they fixed quite a number of bugs between patch to patch. That is the case, including a bunch of technical ones. So again, just more bug fixes and more optimizations on this rather tough patch for them. They were seriously hoping it would be out before this, but you know, keep marching on, guys. Let's see where you go. Now, as of the recording of this video, there was supposed to be another server meshing test later on tonight. That has, however, been postponed till tomorrow or today as of the uploading of this video, the Tuesday. Hopefully that comes out. I can't wait to see what they've done with server meshing since the last one. I want to see the improvement, just see how big it is, or if we get another disappointment. Time will tell, but that is the holy grail and the Jesus tech of this entire project. So I'm very, very interested in server meshing more than anything else at this point, other than Squadron 42. That's my primary wish for this game. I'm a single player game guy at heart, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most. But the development aspect of the PU and Star Citizen as an MMO really fascinates me. That's why I continue to follow it. And this tech seems to be at the core of it, and the way it keeps coming along has got me hopeful, but we'll have to see. But in the meantime, folks, that has been it for this brief update on Star Citizen Live. I will take a look at whatever comes out information-wise in the next weeks. I don't know if I'll put up a Star Citizen video next week if there's even less information to go over, and maybe give that a break until CitizenCon like CIG does, and put something else up on the channel. Let me know in the comments below of any of the games that I've played. If you'd like to see a little bit of an update on that, maybe Space Marine or Helldivers, whatnot, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Same thing about anything going on with Star Citizen itself. I would love to absolutely hear from you. Give me a thumbs up and a like and a subscribe if you thought I did a good job. And until next time, I've been Rage at Games, and I'll see you in the verse.